gacchami sanghang saranang gacchami dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami පානාතිපාතා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි අදින්නා දාන වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි කාමේසු මිච්ඡාචාරා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි මුසාවාදා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි සුරාමේරය මජ්ජපමා දට්ඨානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි සමන්තා චක්කවාලේසු අත්‍රා ගච්ඡන්තු දේවතා සද්ධම්මං මුනි රාජස්ස සුනන්තු සග්ග මොක්ඛදං ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස මයං භන්තේ ගිහි කාම භෝගිනෝ පුත්ත සම්භාදා සයනං අජ්ජාවසාම කාසික චන්දනං පච්චනුභෝම මාලා ගන්ධ විලේපනං ධාරයාම ජාතරූප රජතං සාදයාම තේසංනෝ භන්තේ භගවා අම්හාකං තතා ධම්මං දේසේතු යේ අම්හාකං අස්සු ධම්මා දිට්ඨ ධම්ම හිතාය දිට්ඨ ධම්ම සුඛාය සම්පරාය හිතාය සම්පරාය සුඛායාති සාදු සාදු සාදු. Dear devotees in the Dhamma, today also we are going to conduct next Dhamma sharing. Out of the series of Dhamma sharing we planned during the Vasa retreat of the Mangala Vihara Buddhist temple. Today Dhamma sharing is on how to balance mundane and supramundane life. Basically, Buddhism always talks about how to maintain sustainability in all the aspects of the human life and also the social context, even regarding the development, prosperity on all the aspects. Buddhism talks about how to maintain sustainability. In relation to the religious life, we have mundane and supramundane aspects of our life. So Buddhism clearly emphasizes why we need to balance both mundane and supramundane life and how we can balance mundane and supramundane life. Therefore, today's Dhamma sharing is based on balance in mundane and supramundane life. Mundane life basically means our household life. As lay people, we are maintaining a household life. We are looking after our family members, spouse, children, as well as we are working with the society. And we have to do so many duties and obligations, responsibilities to perform for the sake of one's own family, one's own relatives, one's own society as well. On the other hand, as supramundane life, how to cultivate good and bad, how to cultivate good things, wholesome things, and how to be virtuous, and how we can manage our sansaric life as well. So that is the supramundane life. When we say the mundane as the secular, supramundane as the spirituality of the individual. So secularity and spirituality is completely diverse, which goes two directions. But Buddhism talks about one should lead one's life towards the prosperity or that success by maintaining both mundane and supramundane progression of the individual. Therefore, the Buddhist teachings are directing and leading us towards a sustainable life which can be prospered both mundane and supramundane aspects of the human life. Therefore, in today's Dhamma sharing, we will be talking about how to balance mundane and supramundane life. There is one of the greatest discourse which is found in Pali canonical text, which is known as Andha Sutta, also known as Dvichakku Sutta. You know the meaning, the term Andha means the blind. Dvichakku means both eyes. So the same sutta is defined in two terms, two names, Andha or Dvichakku. This sutta, Buddha has clearly emphasized the importance of balancing both mundane and supramundane life of the individual. It mentions that andhancha eka chakkuncha araka parivajjaye dvichakku panasevetha settho purisa puggalo. There are three individuals in society. In every particular societies, we have three types of people. As a simile, Buddha has pointed out, there are three types of people. One is the blind one. Andha is the blind one. Ekachakku, it is a simile for the one who can see from one eye. We have two eyes, right? So which is balancing. However, one who has one eye is called ekachakku. And dvichakku is the person who can see from the both eyes. Dvichakku. What Buddha pointed out is andancha ekachakkuncha araka parivajjaye. Araka means completely. These blind and one-eyed person should be refused, should be eliminated from one's own association. They are not the prospered one. Therefore, they have to be removed from our life. Then, who is praised by the Buddha to associate? Dvichakku panaseveta. Dvichakku means one who has two eyes, one who can see both eyes. They are considered setto, great. Purisa puggalo, they are considered the greatest individuals, great person. Now, what is the meaning of the term andha? That is not something physical blindness. So Buddha has never criticized whatever the physical shortages of the individual. So here, as a simile, Buddha has pointed out that andha means, the commentary clearly emphasized that andha is the person who does not care about the material and spiritual progression of the individual. So the person who does not consider about material development, progression, as well as spiritual progression is equivalent to a blind. And ekachakku means one who is just as a person who looks at the world from one eye, he always try to prosper either materiality or spirituality. Only one aspect is taken into consideration, either spirituality or materiality. So Buddha said that these two individuals should not be associated and they have to be removed. While Dvichakku means one who tried to progress in both materiality and spirituality together. So that is how Buddhism points out regarding the two-eyed or both-eyed individual. So basically that emphasizes the importance of both physical and spiritual development of the individual. Why Buddha has pointed out this kind of teaching? Because, so what we are trying to progress or develop materiality, it is only for this life. So what we gain as money, wealth, property, wife or husband, their children as well, all these are the material things that we try to achieve, accomplish in this life. They are helping us for the progression of this life, mundane life. In different ways, they help us. They support us to maintain a comfortable life. But they are not, even though they are only for this life, as Buddhism points out, we all have to go through the sansaric life. Everything will not be end with the death, right? Then we have to think of the next life and hereafter. So the nature of samsara is defined in Buddhism. It can be as a lone journey. No one knows when it is started and when it is end. So therefore, why spirituality has given the same priority as material development in Buddhism? Because it is for the investment for our next life, hereafter, sansaric life. So one who needs to have a joyful life only for this life, then he can work with that. But it looks like equivalent to a one who is trying to see from one eye. And one who is trying to see both this life and hereafter, that is equivalent to a person who tries to see from both eyes. That is why Buddha said, the blind one, the person who neither try to progression of materiality, no spirituality, should be completely eliminated from our life. Whereas the one eye, either the person who try to progression on either materiality or spirituality is also rejected. Whereas both materiality and spirituality progression is accepted, individually is appreciated by the Buddha. Entire the Buddha's teachings is based on balancing these two aspects. Therefore, it is very important to identify this point in deep. There is another discourse which is known as Tamo Tama Parayana Sutta. The Pali term Tama means darkness. And Jyoti means brightness or lightness. So Buddha emphasized one should lead one's life not towards the darkness but towards the lightness or the brightness. So in this sutta, Buddha has classified all the individuals in the society into 4 categories, as you see. Tamo Tama Parayana, one who leads a life from darkness to darkness. First category, one who leads the life from darkness to darkness. It means that the person who have been born with certain shortages, with poverty or whatever the shortages, and because of his behavior, he leads his life towards the deterioration, declining, both materiality and spirituality. So such an individual materially decline as well as spiritually because of the unwholesome deeds and the bad karma. They try to deteriorate their sansaric existences by being born in woeful places. So therefore, such an individual, such category is called one who leads a life from darkness to darkness. Second category, Tamo Jyoti Parayana, one who leads a life from darkness to brightness. It means that there are certain individuals who have been born with certain shortages with their birth or with the social condition or whatever. But because of the hard working, because of perseverance, determination and dedication, they always try to uplift their lifestyle with certain achievements. Physically, sometimes physically, they try to develop their economy, stabilize their economy as well. And they try to sustain what they have earned as the wealth. So that is the way of leading our life to the lightness, brightness from the darkness. In the same way, the spirituality also should be uplifted in that way. Even though there are certain cases like from the parents' side, they are not doing some good deeds, wholesome deeds, but there are certain children who are trying to cultivate good deeds and wholesome deeds by themselves. So that is the second category of the individual who are leading their life from darkness to brightness. And the third category, one who Jyoti Tamaparayana, one who leads a life from brightness to darkness. It means that they have gained something. They have fulfilled something with their birth or whatever. But because of their behavior, misbehavior, misusing the things and the bad behavior, they try to deteriorate their life both materially and spiritually. There are some individuals, their parents are working hard and they have got much wealth for the sake of their children, right? So those children, without working hard, they try to deteriorate, only consume, and they try to deteriorate the property and wealth in that sense. So the spiritually also the same. So Buddha said, the third person leads their life from brightness to darkness. And then Jyoti Jyoti Parayana, one who leads a life from brightness to brightness. So the fourth person is appreciated by the Buddha because what they have gained, this life, they try to improve what they have gained materially, and they try to improve what they have gained spiritually. So like the people who are working with good determination, hard working, perseverance, and who is trying to achieve their mundane and supramundane goals. So that kind of individual, Jyoti Jyoti Parayana, one who leads a life from brightness to brightness. So out of these four, Buddha has appreciated the second one and fourth one while completely rejecting first one and third one. Because the first and third, because of their behavior, they try to deteriorate, decline from both materiality and spirituality. So this is one discourse where the Buddha has pointed out the importance of lead in life, we lead in a balanced life. And then, how we can measure the progression. Now we are talking about the progression. Materially, how and what are the measures that can be taken into consideration as the development or the progression of one's own life. Our target, sometimes we are trying to uplift our lifestyle into certain level, economically as well as spiritually. So Buddha has mentioned that being a wealthy person, having the tenfold wealth, in Buddhism, it mentions that there are tenfold wealth mentioned in Vaddi Sutta. One can attain Nibbana. In the Sutta, 10 kinds of wealth a noble possessors are given. This is found in Vaddi Sutta. Vaddi means the progression, development. The measures of development of the individual is, the Buddhist perspective is given in this Sutta. Normally, even today, we are talking about development of the world as well, development of the society as well. So what are the measures and criteria we take into consideration? That is because of the high buildings, right? Just as the SDBs or whatever the buildings like what we see. Even the bigger size road system, train system, right? These are the what we call measures of the progression or the development of a particular country, and using the technology as well. So these are only the measures of one side, according to the Buddha. So therefore, Buddha has given how to sustainable development can be assured through this discourse, Vaddi Sutta. Let's see how he has given. So Buddha mentions that the progression of materiality of the individual can be measured by 5 kinds of wealth a person can gain this life. What are they? The first one says, Ketta Vattuhi Vaddhati, progression of lands and goods. Ketta means lands, Vattu means goods. So what kind of property, lands, and what kind of property we have. Based on that, one can measure one's development. That is what I said, like, the big buildings, high level buildings, or the roads, or whatever. What are the equipments we use, and everything comes. Then dhana danyena vaddati, progression of wealth. Dhana means the money. How much money we have. We call the GDP, right? In a particular country, the development. And they are something like, the progression of wealth, materially. And putta dharehi vaddati, progression of wife and children, one's own family. So one's own family. They are the criterions or the measures for the material development of the individual. That's why we talk about our children, and they are this and this kind, they are working here and there, they have these qualifications and something like that. We try to proudly say about one's own wife, husband or children, relatives or whoever, right? They are some measures of the material development. Dasa kammakara porisehi vaddati, progression of employees. One can measure one's development based on that criteria. We have KPIs, right? Key performance indicators of all the aspects. In that way, for the materiality, these are the KPIs. One can measure one's own progression, like how many employees we have, how many people are working under my company, my workplace, my house, and so on. We try to measure the progression. And Chatuppadehi Vaddati, Chatuppadehi, progression of 4-foot animals, that is by the time of the Buddha, right? Like, cows. By the time of the Buddha, cow was considered the highest wealth one had. On the other hand, since they used the animals for the transportation and all the things, the term Chatuppada is used. Now we have converted into vehicles. Chatuppada means 4-wheel vehicles, like that. There may be 3-wheel or 2-wheel, whatever. So what we are using to transport and all the things, they are considered the measurements of the development, right? So as I mentioned, the train system, bus system, or whatever, the vehicles, how quality they are, how much expensive they are the measures of the material development. So now the problem is, we always try to see the material development with these KPIs, so these measures. So then we try to say that we are developed, we are in this level, we are in this level in the world, or something like that. So the Buddhism clearly emphasized that it looks like the development with one eye, single-eyed, because it is only for what we are having experience in this life, and one should try to develop the other aspects of the progression of spirituality. So then, where Buddha has given 5 factors for the progression of materiality, Buddha has pointed out that there are 5 factors for the spirituality as well. Now here, what is called Saddhaya Vaddati, that is not here mentioned here actually. Saddhaya Vaddati, progression of the Saddha means faith. Faith means how we treat the Buddha. Actually that slide is not there, this is another one. The second one, Silena Vaddati, progression of the virtue. The third one, Sutena Vaddati, progression of the, Sutta means learned, education. Chagena Vaddati, progression of the, Chaga means generosity. And Panyaya Vaddati, progression of the wisdom. So there are 5 KPIs one should have to take into consideration to measure the spiritual development of the individual. Saddha, Sila, Sutta, Chaga, Panya. Saddha means faith on the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And Sila, being virtuous. Sutta, being educated, learned with the Dhamma, by listening, reading, or the understanding what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. Chaga, practice in the generosity, and the Panya, attaining enlightenment through practice in the Noble Eightfold Path or whatever. That is the Panya. So what we have to think is, while these 5 material progression KPIs or the measurements talks about the material aspect of the development, Buddha has given same place for the spiritual development of the individual by giving 5 measurements for the spiritual development of the individual. So then, when a person develops these 5, Saddha, Sila, Sutta, Chaga, Panya, he tried to develop sustainability because of focusing on spiritual development of the individual as well. So the Buddhism clearly emphasized that the development or the progression of a particular individual or a country, that should be based on this policy. Now here Saddha is not only coming to the temple, just worshipping to the Buddha, or the going round the Bodhi tree or doing something rituals, and not only that. Basically some people try to misunderstand. Saddha means trust over the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. That is not only that. Saddha means being confident on what we are doing and with understanding. In Buddhism there are 2 types, Amulika and Akaravati Saddha. Amulika means the Saddha, confident, generates in our mind without understanding, without a reason, proper understanding, right? Then what happened? As instance, when you want to offer flowers to the Buddha, someone may think that I have to offer that to the both hands of the Buddha, right? Otherwise Buddha will not consume it and something like that. I have some experiences like that for when my childhood, when I, as a monk, when I go to the Buddha shrine room to bring the Buddha puja, to clean up, at that time some people has kept the Buddha puja, the bowl on the hand of the Buddha. That is the nature of the blind faith, right? Blind faith. And blind faith is not accredited or accepted by the Buddha because of the blind faith, people do a lot of unwholesome. They accumulate a lot of sin because of the blind faith. So the Buddhism has appreciated Akaravati Saddha. Akaravati means Karana Karanang Pariyesitva Gahitatta Sakaranang. It means that one should try to maintain the faith or trustworthiness either about the Buddha, Dhamma or Sangha, or the path the Buddha has emphasized, Noble Eightfold Path or whatever, based on the fact within a logical format, with understanding, right? So that kind of saddha is very important. That is what Buddhism has emphasized through the cause and effect theory or the dependent co-origination. Everything there should be cause and effect. The reason have to be investigated, right? There is one example. Buddha has pointed out that when someone try to do when someone send a kind of arrow, right? What we have to do first? Whether we have to find the person who shot the arrow, or whether we have to take care of the patient who have been injured by hitting that arrow. Someone may think that the first thing is one should try to find the person who shot it. But that is not the proper way. It looks like amulika saddha, because it does not help to the injured one, right? With 1 minute, 1 second, that person can be died sometimes, right? So the first thing is just to find the treatment for the injured one. And secondly, one can go through investigations over the person who did the crime. So that is what Buddhism has pointed out. Therefore, this kind of, here Buddha has mentioned that the saddha, sila, restrainment of one's own body and physically, verbally and mentally, how to restrain oneself. And sutta, how to be educated. It is a kind of getting or the understanding on criteria of good and bad. And try to understand what is the samma ditti. By overcoming micca ditti, wrong views, how one should try to understand right from something unwholesome from wholesome, right? That identification. Chaga and Panya practice in those things. So what I wanted to say is, therefore, Buddhism always talks about in such a ground level teaching which emphasizes the importance of the both material and spiritual development. In the sutta, Buddha has clearly mentions that there are 4 types of happiness, fourfold happiness. One can gain for the sake of having happiness for the mundane and supra-mundane life. This is mentioned in Anana Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya. In this sutta, Buddha emphasizes fourfold noble wealth of the worldlings delivered by the Buddha. It means the householders, there are fourfold happiness and wealth, fourfold happiness. The first one is called Atti Sukha. This is how we can develop our materiality, how we can prosper our materiality. So then, while working with the law, one can release, but one cannot release from one's own heart when it accuses us, right? One day we have to, that is called, that is called Attadipati. So the Buddha says that Atti Sukha is a kind of happiness that we can gain by looking at our material wealth, materiality, material things we have gained in our life. When a person acquires wealth by means of righteous, he has a great sense of economic security and self-esteem. These 2 words are very important, economic security and self-esteem. How one can get the self-esteem by thinking over one's own wealth or the property, if we have gained them by means of righteousness. Righteousness is called the Dhamma. According to the Dhamma, Dhamma means without making harassments to others, what we have accumulated by righteously. So if we are having such a wealth, then we have happiness thinking over what we have gained, what we have accumulated in our life. Then bhoga sukha. Bhoga means the feelings that the happiness that one could spend wealth as he wishes on himself, family, friends, relatives, workers and meritorious deeds. Bhoga means consume. Then the happiness gained through consuming one's wealth properly, righteously. So that is not only for the well-being of oneself. What we earn should be utilized for having happiness for the sake of oneself and one's own family, one's own relatives, and also for the sake of the departed ones and for the sake of the country as well. So that is what Buddha has given like Raja Bali. As citizens, it is our duty to pay taxes for the government. That is also have been considered as a merit-making activity. And as for the sake of our departed ones, do meritorious deeds. For the sake of treatment, giving treatment to friends and companions, as well as visitors, guests, that is also have been considered like, Atiti Bali, Jnati Bali, Pubbapeta Bali, Raja Bali, Devata Bali. All these things have been accepted. So what the thing is that here, without misery, one should try to consume what we have gained wisely, according to the Buddha's teachings. Then we can gain happiness one day. We have consumed by ourselves. We have generously dedicated them for the sake of my family as well, for the sake of my relatives, for the sake of my departed ones, for the sake of my country as well. That happiness can be gained through consuming wealth wisely. And the Ananasukha, the happiness that can be gained thinking over free from debt, that is also very important. Why it is important? Once Buddha said in one of the discourses known as Inasutta, Buddha has pointed out that because of the poverty, people tend to get loans and they are victimized to debtors, right? Since we don't have, it is not because of the poverty actually, that is not because of what we don't have enough for our investments or whatever. Then we try to fall into debt. Buddha said that, Dalidyang Dukkhang lokasming gihina kama bogino, the poverty. Since if we don't have enough wealth for our expectation, that is a suffering for the householders. Then to overcome that, what we are trying to do is we just try to get a loan. Then Buddha said, because of the insufficient, we try to be debtors, and being a debtor is also a suffering for the householders. Then after getting a loan, we have to pay the interest, right? Buddha said, paying interest is also a suffering for the householders, because day and night we have to think over how to pay the interest. Then when the payments are due, what will happen? The warnings are coming from the banks and financial agencies, right? They are very happy to give us loans. That is their job. That is their duty. But when we take it, when giving warnings, that is, Buddha said, it is also a kind of suffering for the householders. Then when warnings are coming, then what happened? We receive prosecutions, right? Prosecutions. Then that is also a suffering. Then finally, when we are unable to pay off all the things, the debts and all the things, being in imprisonment is the final step of being in a debtor. Buddha said that being in imprisonment is also a suffering for a householder. That is why Buddha has emphasized ananasukha, right? Like Buddha has emphasizes that free from debt is happiness for the individual, for the householder. So someone may argue that how we can do a job or the business without being a debtor, right? That depends on. However, when we are falling into debt, we have all these things. There is a particular sutta called Bahuditara Sutta. In that sutta, there is a Brahmin, a person who belongs to Brahmin clan, who had 7 daughters. Those 7 daughters were married. They given marriage to 7 daughters. And that person had a herd of cows. One day, his herd of cow had been lost. And he was wandering throughout the forest by searching of the cows. When he goes there, inside the forest, he saw that the Buddha was under a tree with the meditation posture. By looking at the Buddha, that Brahmin was very tired by searching of food, searching of, the cows lost, even by searching of 7 daughters who had been widows already. Because if that Brahmin had married those 7 daughters, they have come with 2-3 children. As a father, he had to look after everyone. Then with all these tensions, the Brahmin had only the wealth was the herd of cows. They also lost. With that frustrated mind, that Brahmin was going through the forest and looked, the Buddha was sitting under a tree. Just looking at the Buddha, he was amazed. Why? Because this person, by sitting under a tree, he is very pleasant mood, whereas I am burning with many problems in his life. Then he just approached the Buddha and he said that the problems he had, entirely he informed. Tenayang samano sukhi, the Pali word, the final verse is Tenayang samano sukhi. Even though I am facing this and that questions, problems in my life, oh Gautama, the Buddha is very free from that. So one example, I have my wife, and every day when I am sleeping on the ground with the mat, the old mat, she is always early in the morning, she knocked me to wake me up to go out, to find money. Then by elaborating that point, that Brahmin said, Tenayang samano sukhi. No, the Buddha don't have such a problem. Then even my 7 daughters, right? Alone with their children, they have come again as widows. I have to think over them. The Buddha has no such a problem. Even the debtors are coming every morning before I am woke early in the morning, wake up early in the morning. Deta ati yajenti tenayang samano sukhi. They are having come to house, they are searching, requesting money again and again. But the Buddha has no such kind of problem. Something like that. The series of questions he has raised in front of the Buddha. Finally, Buddha said that, okay, that is your life. You are a householder. Therefore, You have to face these things. And the Buddha said, the way that I have selected is this. Then don't worry about that, something like Buddha has given instructions. Then what I wanted to say is, even in the debt, it is mentioned, the person who gave money and they comes to house, they request every day early in the morning, Deta detati yachenti tenayang samano sukhi. Comes to home again and again, they request. And the Buddha has no such issues. So how that person was frustrated and how he had worked with tension because of the problems is clearly mentioned. However, what I wanted to say is, that is why Buddha has emphasized the importance of the being free from debt. And the last one, anavajya sukha, the happiness that one can gain thinking over purity in thought, words and deeds. Anavajya means thinking over one's own behavior. By thinking over the purity of the thought, of the words and deeds, physically, mentally and verbally, what we have done. So that is called anavajya sukha. Buddha has mentioned in this Anana Sutta, one who try to gain these 4 types of happiness, he can overcome this life and hereafter because of the balance in his life accordingly. In the same way, Buddha has mentioned that spiritual aspect of being in a debt is also have to be taken into consideration. Normally, we are thinking over the material aspect, materiality, material debt. But in this sutta, Buddha mentions there is the spiritual aspect of the being in a debt. Because, poverty, debt, interest, warnings, prosecution and imprisonment are suffering in the world, as mentioned earlier. In the same way, Buddha said, whoever has no faith is equivalent to a poverty. If we don't have faith in spiritual aspect, it looks like we are poverty. Why? Because faith is the basis of the spiritual development of the individual. That is why Buddha said, Saddha Bijam. Saddha is the seed. Faith is the seed, because Saddha Jato Upasankamati. When we generate the Saddha, then only we tend over doing some merit-making activities, wholesome deeds or whatever. If we don't have faith, we will not come to the temple. We will not do any volunteer works. We will not work over the rituals or whatever, right? We will not come to listen Dhamma or anything. Even the learn. Everything is on the basis of the Buddhist path of emancipation is called Saddha. Faith. If we don't have Saddha, we cannot do any kind of good deeds, meritorious deeds, wholesome deeds as well. That is why one who does not have faith is equivalent to a person who is in poverty, person who is suffering from poverty. And the Buddha said conscience is equivalent to debt. Prudence, interest, right? And so on, like, the energy and wisdom, these are considered the Buddha. They are the aspects of the spiritual aspects of the being in a debt. However, Buddha has pointed out that when it comes to skillful qualities, is called poor and penniless in the training of the noble one. Because if someone does not practice these qualities, He is equivalent to a person who is suffering from poverty, debt, paying interest, having warnings, prosecutions and imprisonments, etc. It means that only we have these spiritual qualities, then we can tend towards the wholesome activities as well, according to Buddhism. However, in the Vyaggapadya Sutta, as I mentioned earlier, all these discourses are talking about how to deal with our mundane and supramundane life. Similarly, Vyaggapadya Sutta, Buddha has clearly emphasized how one should try to balance mundane and supramundane life as well. Once there was a Kolian son known as Digajanu. He approached the Buddha. Having approached the Buddha, he informed how kind of lifestyle he is going on. He said that, "O Buddha, we are householders. We are having very luxurious life. We are utilizing very important, valuable things. We use some garlands. We use some clothes, very valuable. And we are having such a very luxurious life. But we have no clear idea on how we can balance our material and spiritual aspect of our life. We are always talking about materiality. We are experiencing material progression, material happiness as well. Therefore, the Buddha, whether there is a teaching that you can elaborate by emphasizing how to manage, how to balance both materiality and spirituality. Then, by elaborating this question, Buddha emphasized, O householder, there are 4 factors one should try to practice in one's own life so that having material development and spiritual progression of the individual. What are they? Utthana Sampada, bliss of vigo. Arakka Sampada, bliss of protection. Kalyana Mittata, bliss of having good companionships. Samajivikata, balance in life. These 4 are very important for the material or the mundane progression of the individual according to Buddha. What is called Utthana Sampada? Accomplishment of persistent effort. This is something very key factor that we all should have for the material progression of the individual. Buddha said that whatsoever activity a householder earns by his living, whether by farming, by trading, by rearing cattle, by archery, by serving under the kin, it means the state service, by any other kinds of craft, any kind of business as well, at that he becomes skillful and he is not lazy. So here there are 2 words. One who has tried to be work with effort and vigor, he should try to generate the skillfulness without being lazy. Laziness is considered the obstacle for one's deterioration, one's development, obstacle for one's progression, according to the Buddha. On the other hand, one should be skillful in all the activities. That is why Karaniya Metta Sutta says, Sakko, skillfulness. It is not only for the one who practices loving kindness or the spiritual path, but also for the material development, that skillfulness is very important. Further, Buddha said, He is endowed with the power of discernment as to the proper ways and means. He is able to carry out and allocate duties. This is called the accomplishment of persistent effort. So, whatever the business or whatever the material things we do, we should have such kind of perseverance, such kind of effort, and according to the Buddha. And then accomplishment of watchfulness, which is called Arakka Sampada. One should try to safeguard, protect one's own property. Materially, what we have gained should be watchful, should be protected wisely. Buddha said that a householder is in possession of obtained by dint of effort, collected by strength of arm, by the sweat of his brow, justly acquired by right means, such he husbands well by guarding and watching, so that kings would not seize it, thieves would not steal it, fire would not burn it, water would not carry it away, no ill-disposed hairs remove it. I mean that what this mentions is how one should try to protect the wealth that someone has accumulated, collected, without being destroyed. One should try to protect them. So, Buddha has given example just as a tank of water where there are 6 doors, right? When the rain comes, when the doors are closed, the tank would be filled. If those 6 doors are open, even though heavy rains are coming, no rains would be remain in the tank. Everything would go out. And still the tank would be empty. Buddha said that if someone does not have a proper way of protecting and safeguarding one's own wealth, just as the tank which has not closed the doors, like the different kinds of ways of destroying one's own property. So Buddha said that so that accomplishing one's own material development, this point should be practiced. And then association of good friends, the good friends or the noble friends is the one who possess with the full of saddha, faith, full of virtue, sila, full of charity, chaga, full of wisdom, panya. Most probably, Buddhism points out that those 4 factors like, the spiritual qualities like saddha, sila, chaga, panya, these 4 are considered the great qualities which should be possessed by a noble person. So the good friend, wise friend, or the good companion is equivalent to a person who consists of these 4 qualities. So therefore Buddha said that there should be such kind of a person, companions for the association. If there is no one, Buddha said it is better to live alone rather than uniting with, rather than associating with bad friends as well, according to Buddha. Ekahan jivitang sayyo, like that Buddha said. Then maintaining a balanced livelihood. This is also a very important point. A householder knowing his income and expenses leads a balanced life. This is called samajivikata. Samajivikata means one should really know one's own income and the expenses should be based on that. knowing that thus this income will stand in excess of his expenses, but not his expenses in excess of his income. I mean that the expenses should be balanced with the income. If someone, without knowing the income, if he tried to be extravagant, like the consuming much, his wealth would be seized. It is not the sustainability in Buddhism. Buddha said that there are 4 sources of destruction. Out of them, because of these sources, one's wealth would be deteriorated, would come into seized, according to the Vyaggapadya Sutta. Debauchery, drunkenness, gambling, friendship, companions, and intimacy with evildoers. Because of those 4 factors, one's wealth and property would be deteriorated. Further, Buddha mentioned, just as in the case of a great tank, the tank, with 4 inlets and outlets, if a man should close the inlets and open the outlets, and there should be no adequate rainfall, decrease of water is to be expected in that tank, and not an increase. Even so, there are 4 sources for the destruction of amassed wealth: debauchery, drunkenness, gambling, friendship, companion, and intimacy with evildoers. Buddha said that is equivalent to a tank where the 4 doors are open, because no new water comes, but the existing one would go out. Then the water tank would be empty. In that way, if we have a system of wasting money without wasting wealth, without managing, that would be the reason for the deterioration of the declining of the individual, fall down. So there should be a way of income as well, according to the Buddha. However, Buddha has mentioned that these 4 factors are very useful for the material development of the individual, so that having a mundane happiness, so that mundane joyful life, these 4 factors are very important. Similarly, Buddha has mentioned that these 4 conditions of spiritual progression should be putting into practice as a wise person. Saddha, sampada, accomplishment of faith. We should try to be faithful over the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and whatever we do. And sila sampada, accomplishment of virtue. No need to further elaborate what is it. Chaga sampada, accomplishment of charity. Panya sampada, accomplishment of wisdom. These are leading our life towards the spiritual development of the individual. So you can see, wherever the Buddha has given the certain weight to the material development, same weight have been given to the spiritual development as well. When 4 factors are given for the material development, same 4 factors are given for the spiritual development. When 5 factors are given for the material development, same weight have been given to the spiritual development. Why? Because that is the sustainability. So if we try to say, like, the development or the progression based on one aspect, he is not the person who wisely maintains their lifestyle. That is why both aspects, while Buddha pointed out the poverty is a suffering for the householder, same as Buddha mentioned, the not having lack of faith is a poverty for the householder. Those who are maintaining, those who are sojourning in this samsara, because next life and hereafter will be decided based on the spiritual qualities that we cultivate. Therefore, the Buddha's teaching is called these are the things you know them very well, how to be virtuous, charity, and the wisdom as well. So the Buddha's teaching is leading our life towards such a sustainable way. So entirely, the Buddha always emphasized that one should lead one's life from darkness to lightness, brightness. Brightness to brightness by practicing both aspects of the human progression. That is what most of the Buddha's teachings pointed out. Therefore, with that understanding, we have to manage our material life, mundane life, as well as spiritual life for the progression of this life and hereafter. Okay, then we'll move on to the discussion. Yes.
Hi Bhante, thank you. I have a question with regards to your two earlier slides on the accomplishment of wisdom. How do we actually measure our progress?
Sorry?
How do we measure our progress in terms of whether are we making progress in terms of wisdom?
Actually, this is in this sutta, that is regarding the emancipation. Basically, wisdom is panya, right? That is basically regarding the saddha, sila, chaga, panya. When they are developing from saddha starts and the sila, chaga, panya, it comes to the destruction of suffering. It means that the Buddha, as Buddha pointed out in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, marga. So the final emancipation is called the wisdom in the spiritual sense. However, as a person materially, the skillfulness and the one who tried to maintain one's own positivity with the good thoughts towards what we are doing, whatever we are doing, in that sense, in material sense, we can say like having a good understanding, knowledge on what we do and skillfulness and ready wit and everything comes under that. So basically in this sutta, Buddha has pointed out that cessation of suffering which leads to the emancipation or the attaining enlightenment is called under the wisdom, panya. Because this is a progressive path. Buddha mentioned whatever the teaching the Buddha has delivered is equivalent to the Buddha has given, like it is like the sea, right? Ocean. Just as the ocean comes to deeper and deeper sequence way. In the same way the Buddha's teachings are elaborated in that sense. So starting from saddha, ending from wisdom, that is the progressive path of the emancipation according to Buddha.
Testing. Good evening, Bhante. Thank you for the talk. I think this is probably a very nice way to look at balancing, the mundane and super-mundane life. But I think most of us still, like lay people, there seems to be a tilt towards more of a mundane kind of life. Even if we're not in that, every morning you'll be kicked to go out and work and, bring back the bacon, so to speak. So for sustenance. I think we are really in the cog rather than go work, come back. Okay, so sometimes you if the conditions are right, like as we age, then we probably start to think about, okay, spiritual, because there are things like thoughts of like, are we doing enough? Have we built our own, karmic merits that we can at least not go down the path of like we can come back to the Dhamma. But it seems like this is exactly what is keeping us in the samsara, that there is an overly focus, right, in the mundane kind of pursuit, just even if it is not so much of a greed, but of course there is certain greed, but it's also for sustenance, practicality, that we have to make a living. What is your advice to people like us, still in the grind, and to have a better balance, tilting towards the spiritual development, rather than looking at the other part of that mundane pursuit?
Actually, there are certain people who are focusing only about their spirituality. Like, they are not focusing on their materiality. So that is imbalance, right? So the Buddha has clearly mentioned that during youngsters, during that period, they have to focus much attention towards the material development. No issue with that. If not, unless Buddha has given one simile that just as a heron who is looking at, who is in near the lake where there are no water and the fish as well, right? Because when we comes to certain extent, certain life, certain level of our life, age of our life, then we have to, while thinking over the past and what we have, if we don't have economic stability, then definitely we have to be sorrowful. We have to think over that we have not done properly, managed properly in our the day that we were able to work hard, right? So that is why we should try to do the balance in whatever the way we can. Like, example for example, what we have to do is clearly mentioned by the Buddha in that way. Like, as a person in the middle age, or some kind of like, the age in the older age, in that level, the young people or the people in the childhood cannot dedicate for the spirituality. That is correct. But we have to start our spiritual path from our childhood. We have to teach our students to do something like very simple, meritorious deeds, and how to respect our parents as well, how to do the something like very simple things, right? Then simultaneously, when we are coming to certain age, we can dedicate much to the progression of the spirituality. So we don't know whether we can accomplish all the things. We don't know when we have to face our final destination. But if we try to develop those things gradually, then it's okay. But what we have to do is should try to manage. The Buddha said that Buddhism clearly emphasized that when a person is the releasing some duties and obligations, then we can tend more towards the spiritual development as our senior citizens, right? Then like that we can do. But no need to worry about thinking over that we have to without Without, the earning money, wealth during this period, we cannot survive. It is true. No need to worry about that, but we should try to tend towards that spiritual aspect also as far as possible. That mentality should be maintained with the proper management.
Go to your slide, accomplishment of persistent effort.
Yeah.
The answer is already given to you already.
Which one?
Accomplishment of persistent effort, yeah.
Yeah.
The Buddha already give the answer to how so.
Yeah. Yes.
I think the important aspect is that you need to put in persistent efforts. Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot become a scholar without going through the studies, hard work, persistence, diligence, discipline, getting up early, not sleeping late.
In everything, all the thing, whatever the duty we have to do, we should have this effort, persistent effort. It can be either the religious aspect or the material aspect, education aspect, or the whatever a company owner, as a company owner, or whatever the situation, we have to do that. That is what we have to think over that. So, however, that is why I said even the Karanimeta Sutta says Sakko, right? Sakko means skillfulness. So that is having the persistent effort. So the whatever the way. You suppose that you try to meditate. If there is no that effort or that kind of mentality to maintain that, it cannot, right? That depends on how we work with the effort and we go. So the thing is that most probably what I wanted to emphasize is always should try to balance. If we don't balance our lifestyle by focusing on both aspects, sometimes we try to think that we can do merit by after 60 years old, 50 years old, something like that. There are so many people thinking over like that. Still we have time. Even comes to the 40 years, still we have time. 50 years, still we have time, right? They are thinking over that. But finally, we don't know what will happen. When the final destination will be happen, then what happen? So therefore, no time to postpone. Just start wherever we are, and then the how heavy, the weight we are giving is depend on. So the same weight cannot be maintained by all the the young people and just as the older people, right? It cannot. But it's okay, no matter with that. So we have to start something from the current level, and then gradually we can develop that progression similarly. Okay, I think no more questions, right? Now, no need to raise questions. What we should try to practice. That is the thing we have to do, right? So, however, with today's talk, we were discussing about how to balance mundane and supramundane life of the individual. So, with that, the knowledge we gain, we should try to practice these things for the betterment of our this life and hereafter. Say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakhantu loka sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddhika පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ලෝක සාසනං ආකාසට්ටා ච බුම්මට්ටා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ලෝක සාසනං අභිවාදන සීලිස්ස නිච්ඡං වද්දාපචායිනෝ චත්තාරෝ ධම්මා වඩ්ඩಂತಿ ආයුවන්නෝ සුඛං බලං ආයුරාෝග්‍ය සම්පatti සග්ග සම්පatti මේවච අතෝ නිබ්බාන සම්පatti මිනාතේ සමිජ්ජතු සාදු සාදු සාදු.
Okay, thank you, Bhante, for tonight's talk. Just a short announcement. The next talk by Bhante Yassasi will be on the 12th of October. The title is Removing Our Bad Karma Through Positivity.
That's the last talk, right?
This will be Bhante Yassasi's last talk. Timing, sir?
Okay, can.
So the talk will start at 7:45. Thank you.